handles well. Second gear pull.
Oh, you better be alert. I might just throw a random fry in the middle. Oh, who's faster? That was good.
Oh, how romantic. This romantic song for my Z900RS test ride. Alright. Nice clear set of analog gauges. Gotta love that. This is a throwback to the early 70s Z1. 948cc, liquid cooled. Inline 4, it's a dual overhead cam, 16 valve. It's down actually 14 horsepower from the Z900. So it went from 125 to 111 horsepower. Just they bumped the low end torque and mid range. Around 73 foot-pounds at 6,500 RPM. I think motorcycle.com dynoed the bike at something like a 98 horsepower at the wheel, which is, you know, 107, 108 horsepower at the crank. This has an Akrapovich can on it. See that? We're neutral. We can pop a couple revs here. Sounds good. Got the floppity Japanese clutch lever there. It's a hallmark of the Japanese makes. Gauges are super clear, very easy to read. You got this little digital display in the middle here. It gives you a gear indicator, time, mileage. Oh, you got a fuel gauge. My Ducati doesn't even have a fuel gauge. And you got a temperature gauge. Pretty sweet.
Ready to go?
Ready to go. Seat's a little hard, but supportive. It's not really scalloped. It's sort of that flat 70s style seating. That's what they're going for here, the old retro style bike. Got some chrome. It's nicely accented fins, even though it isn't air cooled. It's liquid cooled. People have given this bike a hard time because it has this radiator hanging off the front, but I think it's fine. My 700S, my 86 700S Nighthawk has a radiator hanging out the front, so no big deal.
Enjoy yourselves out there on the road.
I've heard that this throttle is very snatchy, but I don't know, seems fine. 2-finger clutch, no problem. You know, this is what Kawasaki's known for, the old inline 4-cylinder. I'm not a huge fan of inline 4s, but I've, you know, like I said, I've got that CB700S. That was my first. It's my first real motorcycle. I'm 5'11", and I'm flat-footed. Got a little bit of bend in the knee. Pretty comfortable. There's kind of a hump at the front of the seat that sticks right up against your butthole, which doesn't feel so great unless you're into that. Gearbox is a little notchy, not quite as nice as the Z650. Good mid-range power, pulls pretty hard, 5th gear. You got 4 throttle bodies. Obviously it's fuel injected. Got a throttle body for each cylinder. The throttle is a little snatchy off the stop. It's very Boolean, very on-off. Yeah, you gotta modulate the throttle a little bit. I guess they've massaged the cam a little bit from the Z900 to the Z900RS. They've decreased both the intake and exhaust valve duration. I think it's from 270 degrees to 248 degrees for the intake, and 256 to 244 degrees for the exhaust. The decrease trades peak horsepower for low end and mid-range torque. Having a large duration at low RPM tends to decrease torque because there isn't enough flow to efficiently fill the cylinders for large throttle openings. Yeah, motor's very smooth. I don't really notice any vibratory characteristics of the motor changing through the rev range. Yeah, very smooth. I mean, we're at $6,000, very smooth. Not too much noise from the valve train. Yeah, pulls good. There's no real slop or play in the driveline. It's just the fueling's a little funky. Let's go, Jibba. Come on. Oh, man. Pulls pretty good. I'm telling you, that 650's got a lot of snap. That's the difference between a 4-cylinder, an inline 4, and a twin. This little twin is down about 40 horsepower, but right from down low, it pulls real good. It wasn't until I hit the higher RPMs that I was starting to pull on them again. I was in second gear, but yeah, suspension's nicely damped, good shock control. Let's see what first gear does here. Hit the rev limiter. Now again, different gear ratios obviously between the inline 4 and the 650 twin, but I'm gonna say that this pulls about the same in top gear at the same speed, doing about what, 60? Yeah. You know, you want to save yourself about $3 grand. The 650, the Z650 seems to be the better bike. Doesn't handle as well. This bike is much more capable in terms of handling, and there's nothing going on in this motor in 6th gear. It's really lazy, really lazy. Oh, it's just ugh. This thing's got a fat tank, so you're not really tucking your knees anywhere, just kind of slithering all over the tank, but very comfortable. Good bend in the knee. I'm 5'11", about 180, 185. So I'm sort of like that 98th percentile rider, you know, that you're designing the bike for. So it fits me very well. Wind protection is 0. You know, a lot of head buffeting and all that shit. If you watched my V4 winglets video, you know what that's all about. The buffeting. The air is hitting you pretty much square in the chest, around the face, moving the helmet around. Got that high velocity shedding coming off the instrument cluster, smacking you in the chest. Motor sounds great. Handles well. Second gear pull. They can see I didn't really catch him. I mean, he had a head start. That's the advantage of the twin. It's not till you get to the higher RPMs that you can take advantage of the power. So in all that time, the guy's pulling on you. Flick is pretty good, pretty stable. There's a little bit of wobble after the turn-in. So with this bike, you have to be really conscious of what gear you're in. I'm not a huge fan of the seat. It's hard to find a comfortable spot on it. It's got a little bit of a crown to it, like right under your sit bones. Brakes, not bad. They're a little mushy. Actually, I like the 650 brakes better. The initial bite's a little mushy, but the stopping power is fine. The MSRP on it's about 11 grand. Now the cafe bike that's in front of me, that adds like another 500 bucks. And again, the cafe has a limited production. I guess they don't sell too many of them. Got that nice root beer paint scheme. It's this flake or metallic, you know, brown on orange. Beautiful. The fueling on this thing's very sensitive off the stop. So you don't really, when you're coming off the stop with the throttle, it's sort of like pulling a trigger on a gun. You don't really want to actuate the finger as much as you just want to apply pressure, like you're squeezing. So you just kind of squeeze the grip and apply pressure, and you're not really turning the grip, and it's fine. Nice to have functional mirrors. Like every bike, you just got to adapt. You got to get used to it. Every bike has its quirks, its foibles. Nothing is perfect. So gearbox is okay. The shifts are very short. They're a little notchy. Oh, this guy's pulling wheelies. Nice. Seating position is pretty much upright. You're kind of cocked a little bit forward, which I kind of like, just because I don't really like that neutral seating position where you can't find good posture. I either like to be totally laid all the way forward or laid back, like, you know, on a cruiser or something. I think that's the same 650 I took out. Alright. That was a good lesson in twin versus inline 4. Boom. Yeah, that was fun. Every motorcycle is fun. They don't have that snap like the twins do. You gotta really be conscious of your shifting.
And now it's time to give the Z900RS a fancy banana score. The Kawasaki is fairly comfortable with a firm and supportive seat, but because the crown on the seat makes you feel like you're sitting on a bowling ball, it's a 2 out of 5. You sit fairly high and upright on the Kawasaki, but with a slight forward lean for good wheelie posture. With all the controls in easy reach and ample legroom, it gets a 4 out of 5. The nice set of analog gauges are clear and easy to read with a digital shift indicator and fuel gauge, which kind of makes you wonder why we got away from analog gauges in the first place. The switch gear is of good quality with an intuitive layout that's easy to operate. It gets a 4 out of 5. The bike is fitted with a nice suite of electronics, which includes wheelie control, traction control, ABS, and engine power modes. However, there is no quick shifter or blipper, so it gets a 4 out of 5. The engine delivers that classic, smooth, and dulcet Kawasaki note with ample power, and with low levels of NVH no matter where the revs are. However, the motor is lazy and lacks torque below 7,000 RPM, despite the massaging of the cams. Because of this, it gets a 4 out of 5. The gearbox has short and notchy shifts, and I had some difficulty finding neutral. The large gap between 5th and 6th gear reductions makes for a lazy top gear. It gets a 2 out of 5. The suspension and chassis delivered a comfortable but controlled ride with good shock control and flickability. It gets a 4 out of 5. The brakes offer ample stopping power, but with some mush on the initial bite, they get a 3 out of 5. The great ergonomics, smooth engine, and comfortable suspension make this a great commuter bike for city or highway. The lack of a windshield gives it a 4 out of 5. At only 470 pounds wet, the bike is quick and easy to turn. However, be sure you're above 7,000 RPM if you plan on carving steep and twisty mountain roads. It gets a 2 out of 5. This bike will easily do track days, but the lack of a windshield gives it a 3 out of 5. At an MSRP of $11,000, the Z900RS falls in between Yamaha's XSR 900 Triple and Suzuki's GSX S 1000 on the low end, and Honda's CBR 1000R and Yamaha's MT10 at $13,000 on the high end. It's almost sabotaged by its cheaper and more powerful Z900 sibling. In any case, it offers a superb engine wrapped in a retro package on a capable platform for any level of rider. For this, it gets a 3 out of 5. Which brings the total average score for the Kawasaki Z900RS to 3 out of 5. So that's it for the Kawasaki. See you later.